Chris and Jay from Lords of War again. Welcome back. We're just gonna chat a little bit about the new Cities of Sigmar.
Cities book, yeah, very exciting. If you haven't already watched our previous video or one of our previous videos about the launch box, so today is kind of a bit about the army in the book. It's kind of our take. I mean, you probably there's probably man who reads book and stuff. You can.
Oh yeah, I mean like we're like I don't know, we're like a few minutes late on a video like this, so we're not gonna really just go over all this stuff. You can get the book yourself. You can read it over.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna kind of talk a little bit about like some units that stand out to us. The factions a little bit about which ones we're kind of interested in and how we would go about collecting an army.
Yeah.
So what stood out to you like faction wise? Like what do you?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually a hard choice because I think we have what do we have? 11 or I think there's 11 cities, something like that, which is like a crazy amount. And at first you're like, oh, there's 11. I'm like, how many of them are going to be actually good? But there's a surprising amount that you're like,
kind of shocking.
This is good, but this is also good.
Yeah. And they really kind of alter the way you build your army too.
Yeah, tremendously. So one that was kind of like, well, actually, I already painted a model with. I mean, I'll preface this. I've actually now evolved my thought, and I'm going to probably do different units in my army that are just from different cities and
that's cool.
Mix it up.
That's cool.
Because that way I can have them all or whatever. Yeah. But the one that kind of one of the first ones was Vindicarum, which is kind of I don't know if it's a new one or I don't know, my cities fluff. I know some of the diehard cities players are going to be shaking their fists at me. But this one is really cool because it really makes use of a game mechanic that I guess hasn't really fully tapped into, and that is based around the rallying. So I mean, we're used to things rallying like on a better roll, like on a 5+ or 4+ or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, they tried 4+ with chaos, and then they said no. But anyway,
it's egregious.
Yeah, it's a little egregious. But really, so their main thing is they can rally while in combat, while within 3 of enemies, which is like pretty neat. So
very cool. You
can effectively like be this tar pit. So lots of units that go, the obvious one is knights, but having units or big units of steel helms or something that you can just like throw into those combats, and they'll just like as long as you can keep them inspired, so save your command points for that, you can try and keep rallying them.
Now, are there any ways like within the unit war scrolls and like maybe command abilities, are there any ways to kind of cheat that rally roll too, or?
Yes, yeah. If you take, she's not in the launch box. She's going to come out later. Talia, she's like the main. She's got kind of a cool story. She's the one on that big manticore, or whatever you call it.
Gorgeous model. Yeah.
I believe if she's in the combat or she's charged that turn, it'll be on a 4+, which is like really nice. Yeah. Her story's kind of cool. She, well, they obviously invented her as a new character, and then she's responsible for creating the tactics or whatever, the signature, whatever you call it, around the city's army. So all of that stuff with the like shield walls and cannons and gun lines and the ogres with the guys on top, those are all like a fighting style that she invented, which is kind of neat. Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah.
And what units do you think you'll like build around in that kind of list?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, probably it's hard not to take knights, but I think knights are going to feature in like every army. So
it does seem that way.
They're like really just cost effective.
They're very versatile
and have
too,
good
right?
saves in their combat. Yeah. They have like a very what I call like a relatively no nonsense war scroll where they just kind of like it's just kind of good and doesn't need any extra seasoning. You can just like.
There isn't an army in the game that doesn't want something with a good save and has movement and can punch things. Like like nobody's saying no to that.
Now, they're still humans, so there's like they don't have like fancy bite attacks or whatever like Source Warriors or Blender things like a chosen Chaos Chosen unit, but I would say they're just solid. They're just like
So do you think this kind of army would feature a lot of infantry then?
If you're gonna build it, if you're gonna like try and make use, I mean, there's the other unit they mentioned specifically. Although, I mean, I personally, I don't know, maybe I'll find a way to convert them. They're not bad models, but they're old. As the Flagellants,
right.
And they kind of their thing is they have a 6+ like when I think it's when they die they do mortal wounds.
Right.
So then you want to like effectively like rally.
Almost like squigs.
So they're like squigs. So you want them to like. Go in, explode, die. That's just like
they got fire and stuff on them. I mean, it's not. I don't know.
It's not far off. It's a little too on the nose, but and then they would
demonetized.
demonetized
already.
and then they would rally some guys. Now there's another small caveat which you may like. I think it's okay in the cities because you're probably not like rallying that many dudes at once, but there is a cap on rallying to 10, which is not a rulebook rule. It's a Games Workshop. Oh, we need to like temper make rallying a little more fair. So they put a cap of 10, and that was in a recent like downloadable rules update or whatever. What do they call it? Battle Scroll or whatever?
Yeah, the Battle Scroll updates. In the summer, yeah. It's a good change. Like I played Doc, and it's not a good feel-good moment for your opponent when you can bring 8 snakes back. On a 4+. It's nasty.
It's 10 wounds worth. So whatever that divides by. So exactly. It means you can't get
only 5 snakes now.
Is it only 5? Is there 2? I don't know why that's
such a punishing thing. You know, it's still really good. It's still really good. Yeah.
So what about you, Chris?
That's cool.
What are you feeling?
To be honest, like you, I was kind of like captivated by a couple different ones. Like I think we chatted like Misthaven obviously calls to me a little bit. It's probably going to see a lot of play. It's free movement, right? So you pick 3 units. You have to be outside 12. It's a bit like the Iron Jaws rule, where like they get to what's it called?
Mighty Destroyers.
Mighty Destroyers, where they get free movement, and then they get D6 inches of free move, or 2d6 if they're cavalry. We just talked about how good the knights are in Misthaven. So pretty cool. Obviously in the hero phase, so you can still charge, run and charge, whatever. It's nuts, right? Obviously mobility is massive in Age of Sigmar. You want to get to point A, point B, cut off your opponent, all that stuff, and so that's going to be a top one for sure. And I think you can play like a pretty, like Misthaven's one you can choose and be really flexible with your army construction still. I think you can kind of take all sorts of units. Obviously you're going to want knights and stuff like that because you really get full advantage of the 2d6. But even with like shooting units, like being able to d6 move in the hero phase and then still basically like, not have moved basically, right?
Extends your range.
You just get extra range basically, right? So the other one, and I'm probably leaning more towards this. I like the colors. I like the decal, and I like. Well, obviously, we're in a Magic edition right now. Hollow Heart is really cool. Yeah. You get to for all your wizards basically can roll an extra dice.
So you get to 3d6.
Okay. Yeah. Like there's a payout. Like you can take mortal wounds if you roll too high. Right. But hey, you're rolling high. You're probably casting your spell. So things are pretty good.
That's before primal dice.
Correct.
So correct. It's like getting a free primal die.
And the thing this gets around, which is cool with the primal dice, is like you're not allowed to use reroll abilities with primal dice. So if you reroll your dice, you can't add a primal die. This is just adds an extra die. So like you're partying. You're gonna be like blizzarding friends off the table.
A lot of blizzards.
It's going to be very cold, very cool. And we're not going to go into the War Scrolls too much, but battle mages, the Hurricanum, the Luminarch, are all great War Scrolls. And you can build an army around that.
Now, is it human wizards or any wizard? No, just
friendly Hollow Heart wizard. Yeah, as long as you have the keyword. Yeah.
So your Dark Elf wizard also gets the bonus.
So you can shut off saves and stuff. Which is
there's a nice very strong spell there.
So I think even with like a Hollow Heart army, like obviously you're probably going to capitalize that, take a lot of mages, but this book really feels to me like a combined arms army. Like you really want a little bit of shooting, you want a little bit of mobility, and you want a little bit of tankiness in combat, and then sprinkle in your characters. Like the characters are really gonna. I imagine most people are gonna take 4 or 5 characters in this army because they do so much for the army.
Any concept list I've written fills all the characters, like 6 or 5 or 6 characters.
You can't just look at the War Scrolls of the units and say this is what the unit does. Like you have to imagine like 2 to 3 buffs a turn going on that unit, from like anything from like the Rune Forger to a spell to the order. Like it's going to be a lot of buff stacking and managing that sort of stuff, which is really cool. So it does make it's a little bit of a more technical army for that reason, but once you get used to them, it's going to be very satisfying. I think so. I think like we're going to quickly talk about just a couple of units that I think you'll probably see in most armies, but I think like obviously, what do we call him, the Pope?
With the she, yeah, Zenestra
She's
or
the
whatever.
Pope, yeah.
She's like a
Pontifex Zenestra,
yeah,
yeah.
she's like a
She,
on a palanquin being carried by two dudes, and it's
yeah.
like a super. It's like some Adeptus Sororita type of just like crazy faith, and yeah,
She's really cool. So she like gives you like a flat 5-up ward save on like all your units within a bubble.
within a huge bubble. Yeah,
It's like a massive
it's
bubble.
18 inches. Yeah,
You get like you can get extra movement. You can get extra. There's a couple extra abilities. She's pretty tanky. She's got a ward save. She can dispel because she's a priest.
Yep.
And she explodes wizards on the other side of the table, which is really good in this edition.
She just being there.
Yeah.
She's just torching wizards. It's a table wide effect, so it's just you know where to hide from her. And her current cost is very cheap. You're gonna see her until GW decides to make some sort of balance thing. I think she's extremely good for the cost.
Exactly.
Yeah. So she's definitely she reminds me of the model in Seraphon. Everyone, is it the Starseer?
The Starseer, yeah.
Everyone wants the little skink in the little chair
because he's just so points effective.
He's just so points effective. She's their version of that guy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So her for sure. I think the Warforger. So you get one of these in the box, which is great.
Yeah.
He to me seems like it's like
the other guy.
The question is like, do you take more than one? It's more that question than it is. Do I take one? He just does so much for your army.
Yeah. He buffs your save. He improves your guns.
Yeah.
He's also just a wizard. And he's like 90 points.
yeah. And the model's cool.
And
so win right there.
Win.
So those two heroes I think are going to be the ones you're penciling in first.
Yes.
Battle Mage is solid. I like the fact that you can customize them, which is that's a really neat mechanic.
You pick a wizard, and then there's 6 like little traits that you assign them. Some of them include like extra range on your spells. Or if you don't play Howlheart, I think you get extra. There's one with extra dice. Like they're also pretty cool.
Extra casting rolls. Sorry, adding 1 to casting roll. Yeah, there's just good stuff.
They're good.
Generally good stuff. And as far as like units go, everything's pretty solid. Like we talked about the knights already. The steel helms are like it's one of those war scrolls. There's not much there, but when you start stacking all the buffs and stuff, like you're gonna probably see them be a pretty tanky unit for this army.
They're like a standard like 10 wounds for 100 points, but they have stock save is like 4 up, so you can easily buff them. And you look like if you play enough Sigmar, you need units that just like stand their ground or get in the way or bubble wrap things.
And they also with the right order charge and the Warforger buff can do a lot of mortal wounds.
They can,
surprisingly.
Yeah, they can get really angry and just
the Fusiliers. I think most armies you'll probably see one big blob of those.
Yeah,
because you can stack them up pretty nicely. They're pretty tasty.
Good range, and combined with Warforgers and things like that, they shoot a lot of shots. I think this is a sleeper unit. The steam tank here, maybe
the commander.
Or the steam tank. We had either one.
2-up save.
It's another 2-up save.
Very nice.
That you can kind of.
Just hard to deal with in this edition.
They have cannons, so definitely. It's like you just keep at first we're like, oh, this will be the best thing, and then you flip the page and you're like, no, this other thing is really good, and this other. So you want it all, and then you can't fit it all, so it is hard. So you definitely kind of have to pick your city first, and then try and jerk the units to go into it.
Yeah, and I think the Wild Corp Hunters are you're going to see them with the Warcry set. I think they're definitely a bit of a sleeper unit as well. They basically have like Ren 2 crossbows if they're in terrain, and they can't be targeted outside 12 inches, so they're like basically invisible. And units like that are just always valuable. The father and son daughter combo are interesting because they can take endless spells off the table. I wouldn't go too much into like the dwarf and the dark elf stuff, but the dark elf stuff definitely has some nasty combos. The Drakesworn Knights, what are they called?
Yeah,
the Drakesworn Knights.
That's what they're called. Yeah, they're just like another like points efficient unit.
3+ save.
Yeah,
they have like 5 attacks a model.
Yep.
With Rend, and then the big combo is like pairing them up with the sorceress, who can shut off saves, basically.
Yeah, so it's a buff spell. So you buff your own unit. It has to be a dark elf unit or elf unit, and they whatever they fight doesn't get it doesn't get armor saves. So,
And it's great in the meta right now. We have like Null Myriad running
Yeah.
around, and like you can't target them with spells. It's like, okay, I'll target my own unit, and I'll just take your amazing save away.
it's silly. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, like so there's a ton of stuff in here. Like you have a lot of war scrolls to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it, I was reading through. Even the dwarf stuff is compelling and interesting. So if you have old models, like I don't see why you're not going to have fun using them.
Yep.
Obviously, like to me, most of the flavor comes from the human stuff,
Yeah.
a lot of the order mechanics and sort of stuff like that. Obviously, it's the focus of the release, but
Yep.
very cool.
Yeah. So pretty exciting, and I think I don't know when, but it's probably late October or November. I think is the going rate of when the rest of the units will come. But it's you're gonna probably change cities multiple times because it's just like there's so much fun to try them.
Yeah, that's the cool thing is you get a big dose of different flavor when you change your faction.
I think it also probably means that like going forward, because like every year, the new handbook is kind of like a new season and something else is a new gimmick. So obviously this one's all about the wizards and magic. They have enough in here that I think you're like good for multiple years and seasons of like different styles. Like next year it might be, I don't know, something else is maybe it's built around cavalry or something. I don't know.
Yeah. There's
or monsters. Like there are monsters in this book too. There's like griffin riders and stuff. So like there are dragons and stuff. So there's like plus you can ally with like basically everything order.
Yeah.
So this book has a bit of like the Stormcast feel where you have like something for all seasons and all editions.
I think so. Yeah.
So
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it for today.
That's it for today.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe and all that fun stuff, and we'll be back with more content soon. Thanks.